Nick's bloody live, is he? Cheeky boy.
Yeah. He's doing something, and I saw Mr. Bean obviously doing a Saturday Night Live. G'day, everyone. We're 7 seconds live, Simon. 10 seconds live and
10
counting.
seconds. 10 seconds and counting. Good morning. Anybody?
Yeah. No Carl with us. Hopefully, we will get him next week. We're trying to work on getting something going with Richard Fox too. So we're up in the air organising something with him. But you had a gig last night. Do you want to tell us about that? You kept that under wraps.
only due to time, really, more than anything else. It's the madness of my life. Too much ballet school runs, and you going out, and my middle daughter is, she's 15, so she's about to do her GCSEs next year, but then she wants to go to dance school, so we sort of spent time trailing around dance. We got one this week just gone, one this week coming up Bath. So yeah, it kind of all of a sudden you're just on to the next thing, and my youngest daughter doesn't go to school much, so we have quite a lot of things to deal with there. But so yeah, the gig just rolls around as today. Yes, that's the gig, right? Put your stuff in the car, go. But that was really good.
Throw everything in the boot.
Throw in the car. It's today's Saturday. Oh, it's gig, right? Let's go on that. Having not done any of it, hilariously, sadly. But yeah, it was actually gig was. It's nice to get out. The gig was just with a local pub, which we played there before, and yeah, we go pretty well there. It's a lot of people like it. We have a kind of, I don't know if I've sort of said this really, but what we do is me and Dave, the two of us.
Yeah.
The idea is, and I spent a lot of years playing in what I would describe as a party band.
Yep.
So you've got, the objective, you're playing a lot of dance stuff, a lot of, things to make people get up and dance, as the name says. But I kind of got fed up with it, really, because it's an effort if what you want is to have if that's what you're trying to do, because in some situations it's fine, but in a lot of other situations it's really difficult to organise and do, because God, I was in a 7-piece, so I think you can't find a little pub when you're and there's 7 of you, and you're beholden on the audience to kind of come up and do something, otherwise it's all a bit flat. And I kind of think that's that became hard work for me after a bit. So I decided then that I'd sort of stop. So I did indeed stop and do something else. And this something else was the little band that Dave and I have now. And basically, the idea is that we just go out and play kind of songs that we like, a bit lower key, and because we're using kind of backing tracks and things, and so you can control the volume. Yeah. So actually, you can control the volume so that you're playing. It's a bit more kind of like jukeboxy. So you're playing, and people can still have a conversation. They can still be involved, but you don't necessarily be having to be getting up and dancing. And that sounds a bit weedy, a bit, kind of thing. But because the music is all about interaction. But what you find is that actually people interact fine, and they really like it. To be able to go to, not have any pressure on them to, when you come on, lights flashing, smoke, clap, dance, there's no pressure on them, no pressure on us, and we start off in a very, very gentle fashion, some semi-acoustic stuff, and we just play, and people really get into it and really like it. but not in a sort of massively demonstrative way. Flag waving and lighters and stuff. That's not happening. But yes, as I say, what you find is people come up afterwards or at half time and go, "Oh, I really like your stuff, man. It's,
Yeah.
really cool."
Good.
And you think, really, I mean, it's slightly, it's a bit of us just doing some stuff, but it is really nice that people come up and they appreciate. One, it's not too loud, and that's always always a thing. And two, it's a variety of things. We're not in their face about it, and we're just playing,
I think
and
volume is a big thing for a band, Simon. I've been to a few places where I've socialized with some friends, and
yeah.
it's too loud. It's and it would be okay if it was U2 or Pink Floyd, or John Bonamassa or Clapton, but jeepers. Yeah, and I don't want to be cynical or be disrespectful, because I've played in a small environment, and it takes a bit of courage, especially when you start off, and we need to be supportive. But I keep a lot of my criticisms to myself. But you and I are talking about a small band in a live situation.
Yeah,
Sometimes I think it's the ego of the guys is a lot bigger than the event or environment that they're playing in.
Yes, completely. Yes, and that can be quite difficult. I mean, this pub we're playing in is a small pub.
Yep.
It's got a couple of rooms, and we're lucky that there's a kind of end bit which has a kind of opening that so we could put all our stuff. I mean, you probably saw the photograph I put on Facebook, but and basically, that's facing in and into that little room. So we set ourselves up in that little, and then the alcove looks out down the pub, which is, works very well, and it's fine. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't. If we came on with kind of smoke bombs and, as I say, flashing lights, and it wouldn't really go. But what's interesting is that there are lots of places where that doesn't really go, and where a kind of lower key thing works really well, and people really like it.
Well, the key thing is when people go to a pub, they want to go obviously and have a beer, maybe have a meal, but certainly kick back and have a conversation. So that's the key. You want to be able to have a conversation and have some good music, and if you want to, after a couple of pints, go up in front of Simon and Dave and do a bit of a boogie. Great.
Yeah. Well, indeed, and at the end, so people oddly do get up and dance. So that's not our primary, not our primary thing at all. Is to get up and do that. But we get a bit, get a bit more lively towards in the second half and stuff. Play some more sort of rockier tunes. But as I say, not having that kind of pressure on to whip the audience into a frenzy or whatever. Well, apart from anything else, the audience seem to like quite a lot whenever we do it. It's
I went to a concert, a small concert this week, Simon, and
who'd you see? Or just a local band or something? Or?
No, she's a bit of a legend. Her name is Missy Raines. She's a bluegrass bass player. She's won the
oh yes, I saw that.
yeah, she's won the bluegrass award, country music bluegrass award, bass player 9 times, played with Molly Tuttle. Anyway, she's standing there with her acoustic bass, a young Texas guy called Ben, and an Australian who was born in New Zealand, who's the fiddle player. And if anyone is watching the show or the reruns, I'm a bluegrass nut, besides being a classic rock and roll nut. And what's really, and I gave the guy a hand to set up the sound system, and it was remarkable, Simon. He organized and had it all directed through an iPad on a mixing board. He had the Boss Bose, sorry, Bose PA system,
Bose,
which is
yeah, yeah.
similar to your one, the pillars.
The
But
posh version.
and
Wow.
oh my gosh, yeah. Admittedly, it was an acoustic act, but the sound was just remarkable. But again, getting back to the point that you and I were saying earlier with your gig, it wasn't loud; it was good.
No.
You,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. That's an
I,
interesting point. Is it
I
loud
don't
and
like
not
I
good?
don't like loud music.
Yeah. You get to a certain age. I don't. Too loud, man. Too. But I mean, it's interesting that I mean, I go to a reasonable amount of gigs, and the best gigs I've been to recently have been when the sound is really good,
Yeah,
but you can hear yourself, over the top of it a bit.
yeah, yeah,
And it's you're right, just turning everything up to 10 and kind of, pinning you to the back wall. I'm not convinced that that's, well, I mean, obviously David and I are convinced that that's not the way forward because that's not what we do. But, that, and I think we're convinced that people, in my age bracket, quite old, but, they are, it's beyond a certain point. It's just too loud,
yeah.
I don't mind it being loud. I mean, it's rock and roll, but,
Mm,
but also that applies to the audience. They don't want it
sure.
too loud either. They really don't, and that kind of, as I say, we're playing in a fairly small pub, it's not huge. What you don't want to do is, if you're going there with a live band and play, then you're going to be loud, yeah. You are going to be loud, a lot louder than we, we can play quite loud, but probably as a band, because you're a drummer, as soon as you've got a drummer, you've got to play to the sound of the drum, haven't you? The level
That's correct.
that
That's
the drummer
correct.
plays.
Yeah. You can play 5 or 6 on your amp in a duo situation, or just with 2 guitarists and have a bass backing track. As soon as you've got a drummer, you're on 10.
We're not quite on 10. Not on my PV. That is a 30-watt amp. That's ferocious. That amp. I normally play it on about 3. It's quite loud.
Yeah.
If I turn it up to 7, the neighbours all complain. It's quite a lot, but it is bloody loud. I mean, it amazes me, that I mean, I feel as though I could play anywhere with that. Really, you might have to mic it up, but I don't feel as though I'd have a thing. But and it's got lots of my amp journey. It's got lots of headroom as well, which I really like, and a kind of that upfront sound. But
I was having a chat with a guy yesterday that's got a Princeton a Fender, and he
yeah,
gigs with that, and he just mics that up. And I think the Princeton's only a new version of the Princeton, and I think that's only like 30 watts. Same as your same as your
in a pub. I
PV.
wouldn't mic it up. I don't mic it up in a pub. I mean, just
I'll just check the watts.
It's just check the watts.
And he plays at a lot of country, and like over in Morrinsville, which is not far from Hamilton. It's a big country club, country and western. I hate using that word western, but country folk club. And
country western's not really used anymore, is it? As a term?
No, but
is it really? It's just called country, isn't it? It's
yeah, and he reckons there's about 200 people that turn up when they have their monthly gigs. So you got to be pretty loud.
Oh yeah, you've got to keep up. I completely accept that. That. But I mean, who have I seen comparatively recently? I saw. Oh, this is quite a long time ago, but maybe the last 5 years ago. I seen Van Morrison. At the place in Bristol, the Hippodrome, which is a 2,500 seater theatre, and he, he had a fantastic. It wasn't massively loud, but the PA quality was fantastic. Whoever was doing the sound and mixing it was just doing a fantastic job. mixing it, and the PAs in my days, the PAs went from floor to ceiling, massively, massively tall, and more speakers, more watts. but this was, just two. I can't remember how much they were, but they may be, sort of two bass bins of about 3x4x6, something like that, 8. Kind of like three of them on either side of the stage. The sound was amazing, and you were struck by how good it was, but also Van Morrison is not like Mr. Loud, but how the quality of the sound just overrode how loud it was. You're not playing in a 2,000 seater, auditorium, but the sound of it was brilliant, And I saw Leonard Cohen a few years ago at the O2. That was just brilliant as well. Arvin's joined us. Good morning, Arvin. How you doing?
So this the Fender Princeton's the electronics, it's a 12 watt, but the speaker is 30 watts. So hey Arvin,
Yeah.
I just want to say g'day, Arvin. I've touched base, Simon, with Arvin on Facebook.
Good. Excellent.
And so he's going to jump on a show with us.
Yes, Arvin, what are you doing?
So I'm glad you popped on. Yeah. So does this time suit you next week, Arvin? Just mention in the chat or send me a message now if it suits you, and we can talk during the week about something. Maybe you can just talk to us about what you do.
I think that what I think most interesting about these things and about being in the chat of a lot of these things is that how many people have a story, or several stories. Anybody who's lived been on the planet for 50 years or whatever, will have bands they've seen, things that people they've met and stuff like that, and without taking it to the sort of Richard Fox levels of doing it, it's we've all got stories, haven't we? About what we've done and who we've seen and who we've met, and I think if you play guitar and you do stuff, that inevitably you will have had some experiences, won't you? And they're always fun to share.
Arvin's got an awesome channel. He's got some good videos. So if you haven't done this before, Arvin, you just need a device, a camera, and some earphones. It's pretty easy, and we'll send you the link. We'll email you the link. Oh yeah, and so Arvin's from Canada.
Just so you know, Arvin, I'm using my iPad Air 2 and a pair of just ordinary, these are ordinary telephone headsets, $5 or something. So nothing spectacularly expensive, nor be difficult to set up. It's it just
all
goes.
Carl uses. He just uses his bloody iPhone.
Bloody iPhone.
That gets 50 calls when he's doing a show with us.
Yeah, beeping and whistling and get chucked off every 2 minutes.
So what's the time in Canada? If it's early morning where you are, and
they'll be 5 hours behind me, so it'll be midnight for them, I think.
Oh, okay.
So so I don't know if Hack's doing a post gig. No, he won't. He did. He have a gig on Friday? Hack, you think he did? Yeah. Mind you, time in Canada is it's
a big place.
Well, yes, I was just thinking that.
They've got 2 or 3 time zones in Canada, haven't they, or something?
Blimey! So if you're in Newfoundland, it's 1:50 a.m. If you're in Edmonton, it's 22:20.
Wow!
And if you're in Vancouver, it's 21:20.
Holy shit!
Yeah, so you're all over the 12:20. Arvin's 12:20, so we can guess that he's somewhere.
Yeah, so the invite's open for you next this time
Oh, yeah,
this time next week. So jump on and
that would be
Simon and I will be here. So we'll love to have you on, and you can tell us your story. We found Simon this week.
Simon can at last tell the time, and he's able to get up. Well, it's fine. I've got it's I enjoy doing this. I get up, and it's 5:20 here in the morning, so I got up at 20 to 5.
Yeah.
Wondering whether you'd send me a message saying you'd finished like you did last week.
So it's 12:30 a.m. Okay, is that too late for you, Arvin?
Yeah, still awake. Yeah, we still awake. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I don't know how many. I don't. You and 10 other ones as well. Arvin, you and Hacks and Johnny Beans as well. Got to have 3 devices for that, haven't you? Or many tabs to keep up. I see Johnny's just gone live with his Saturday night. So, competition is fierce on a Sunday morning.
Oh, look at the end of the day, mate. You know, you and I have said this before. It's just a hangout for you and I, and you know, we never ask for subscriptions. We never say click, like, share,
like, subscribe, and share. Yes, indeed. Yeah, the mantra of YouTube.
I'm just interested in talking about guitar, Stones, British blues kind of related stuff, and you know, it's great that Simon gigs. I play. Carl's a player. Hopefully, if things work out well, we might be able to have a bit of a gig for us early December. Nope, just got up from a nap. Okay, well, so this is what Arvin's saying. So he's keen to jump on next week.
Good.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah. Jump on. We'll love to have you. It'll be good, and maybe you can talk. Yeah, just tell us about your story and some of the guitars you've got. I notice on your channel you've got a few guitars there. So, and
it beats typing, Arvin, I can tell you.
and talk about some of your guitar heroes, because basically that's what our show's about. It's not necessarily a gear show. It's you know, it's why do you like Keith Richards? You know, what's what don't you like about him?
Don't like about Keith Richards? Yes, how dare you?
Yeah, I was having a chat, Simon, a couple of days ago with some young guys in their 20s, and they discovered the Stones through the Honk album. So, which is the latest.
Okay, the latest kind of greatest hits thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting talking to these guys who are 23, 24, and they know the Rolling Stones radio songs, Satisfaction, Brown Sugar. But it's interesting listening to these guys, 2 guys, builders, talking about how they didn't realize actually how cool the Stones were. So I'm going, wow, that's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I talked about this on. I think that for you and I, obviously I'm 61, so I can see in front of me the whole of the history of rock and roll. I have a sense of its chronology, so when things happened, but I think people who are young now, if you're, I have teenage daughters, they have no idea of the chronology. They just have now. They have now, which is new pop music and stuff, but they also have the rest of it. But it's kind of an amorphous mass. It has no chronology, no timeline, and they just find a song, do they like it, and they often won't know if it's from the 50s or whether it's from the 70s or what it is. It's just a case of, I like that, so then they play it. And I noticed Saskia, my middle daughter, who's 15, she will play modern stuff, but then she'll play something from the 50s, and you think, or she'll play, some Phil Spector thing, And you go, where do you get that from? Well, it just came up on my YouTube thing, you know, so I listened to it. You know, I like it
Wow.
kind of thing. You know, so she has that kind of has no idea of the chronology, no idea of it. She just knows there are these songs that she likes. And whether they come, as I say, from the 50s or from, you know, the 90s, she doesn't really know and doesn't really have any idea.
Yeah, it's
Which I think is interesting, you know, that
yeah,
she can't, you know, she has no idea about, not that you would at 15 necessarily, well, I might have done a bit, but where, you know, I can see it all and I can make links, you know, so I can, you know, I can make links. So you can say, you know, I can make a link between Led Zeppelin and Greta Van Fleet, for instance, you know, whereas she would have no idea about any of that. And if I don't know, that's probably me being
we're
able
talking
to,
to these young guys. You know, one of the guys, his name was Ben, who's a bit of a musician. You know,
mm-hmm,
you know, playing a lot of modern stuff. He couldn't get over how good the music was. So you know that link that you're saying, that linkage of going back to you know the Stones. Yeah,
mm-hmm,
it's phenomenal. And I made a little joke with him. I said to him, "It's what's really interesting about you in 2019 getting into the Stones. In 1980, I was at high school and I said to a couple of my friends when we are talking about what bands are you into, because that's like a really
the
important
thing you
question.
do, yeah.
That's like that's really important. It's more than what street do you live in. It's like or what part of town.
Who've you got written on your school bag? Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
if you
yeah,
did that, but you know,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. You know, we
yeah,
did that. But
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember saying, "Oh, I listened to the Rolling Stones. I was listening to the Rolling Stones, Tattoo You or something." Yeah,
Yeah, I was going
and
to say 1980. Ooh,
and my friends go, "What? That's old music."
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Can you imagine a band that's been going for 20 years? Can you imagine that? But that's the weird bit, isn't it? You were in
Yeah.
1980 and they started in 63, kind of thing. So they've been going 17 years. And you think, 17 years, that's 2002. So, you know, a band that started in 2002, and you want to, if you think about it in those terms, which I like doing a lot, as you know, as you can have that, you know, you think, what was that then, you know? And you're going, yeah, but they started in 63 and now it's 19. That's only 17 years. And you make it sound like, you know, as you say, that somehow it's about 300 years, don't you? They started off in the time of Mozart and been going
Yeah.
ever since.
So these young guys that I'm listening, sorry, that I'm
Yeah, yeah.
talking to, I said to them, "What got you into music?" And they said, "Oh, the Strokes, that you know the stuff
Mm.
from the Kings of Leon." And I'm going, "Oh, that's great," you know. So they were listening to a version of rock and roll, of guitar music in the early 2000s, Simon, which has a direct link back to the stuff that you and I are talking about. So
Completely,
y-
yeah, yeah.
yeah, interesting, isn't it?
It is, yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, that you know, that they're able to pick up on those things and then kind of go back. Because I think that's what happens is, you know, you pick on somebody who's contemporary
Yeah,
and then you go, well, is this, and it still happens, you know, that although I think it's more difficult now, but certainly if if you listen to radio stuff, you know, that I think it's more difficult to find the links between modern pop music. So, you know, if you're listening to Billie Eilish, for instance, I don't know if you've come across her, uh, you know, young modern pop artist, that you know, it's difficult to go. So where does that come from? You know,
mm,
where does that fit? You know, where's her? As I talked to her, where's her lineage, if you like? You know, because you could go back from, can't you, from the Kings of Leon to other classic rock bands, and there is a link there between them, and you can find those links and stuff like that. I think it's more difficult in modern pop music because modern pop music is it's just one genre, and if you're in that genre, it doesn't really cross over to other stuff. Although I don't, if you listen to Taylor Swift, would that take you to Johnny Cash? You know, started off as a country artist and kind of thing, has a sort of country, you know. I don't. I mean, I'm just trying to think about it really, whether it would take you to other country artists, you know, other women country artists, you know, modern ones, and then you would go back that lineage. I suppose it's possible that you
Oh,
would.
look, well, everything's possible, but I'd flip a coin and I'd be sure that it would land on heads, and I'd bet saying no. Um,
Mm,
and you know, talking to these guys again, it's fascinating listening to young guys talking about music. So they were getting into Oasis, so they knew about the Beatles. Though what's really interesting is that they were digging the Beatles at an
yeah,
early age, because when they were reading about Oasis and they were listening to every opportunity they had, Simon, and you were around obviously at that time,
yeah,
they made it very clear that they were Beatles nuts. They didn't hide that. They said we are, you know, John Lennon, John Lennon nuts. We love the Beatles. So yeah, interesting.
yeah. No, I think yes, but you could see, can't you, that I mean, I always thought the brilliant thing, and I did think it was the brilliant thing about someone like Oasis was that they put in sort of things from the Beatles and stuff, yeah,
Oh
references, and you know,
yeah,
that for people of my age who, you know, more or less there at the beginning, that then you reference it and you recognize it as a reference, and you go, oh, that's cool, you know.
yeah,
And then if you didn't recognize it first time around, some people would say, oh, that's like the Beatles. So
yes,
you've got a line, and you've got a line that goes back to, from,
yeah,
you know, a lineage, a chronology, and you go, I can go back. Yes, and, oh look, oh right, that's where Oasis got it from, if you like. You
mm,
know,
yeah,
they haven't developed this in isolation. They have
yeah.
it, you know, they have it in within the you know the round of what music is, and you know they've picked up on that and gone, hey, let's do that 30 years later. You know, so.
Oh, that definitely maybe album's phenomenal. It's
Mm,
yeah, you know, and good simple chords, power chords, pretty good. Good songwriting, riffs. There's plenty, you know, alcohol and cigarettes. Well, you know,
yeah,
classic riff. You
the
know, again, British
the other
guys,
interesting, yeah,
skinny
skinny.
British guys with their cigarettes and their
Sorry.
and rock
Well,
and roll.
to me, they remind me a bit of they're a bit modish, aren't they? A bit like mods kind of
Yeah,
thing, you know,
yeah,
with their sort of Union Jack guitars and a bit of
yeah.
that going on that is interesting. I Yeah, completely, you know. But the other interesting I think I'd say about Oasis is that not not a kind of I suppose in common wisdom, but not a kind of they don't have, you know, Noel is not a, he's not Eddie Van Halen by a
No,
distance. You know,
no.
he's not a virtuoso guitar player, but
He's good.
what he does is he works out what's really good in the context of the song
Yeah,
and plays
yeah.
what's in the context of the song, you know. So it may not be that complicated or whizzy or, you know, or showy offy, but it fits in with the song. And I think that's, you know, they are an example of, you know, attitude and drive and whatever over massive musical talent. You know, I think, you know, Noel's got a good ear for a melody, and you know, a good, sorry, you know, a good ear for, you know, for some words and things, and yeah, it's really good at it. So I'm not knocking it by some distance, but as I say, it's, to me it's interesting that, you know, it's not predicated on the wizard guitar player. You know, it's predicated on the guitar being the vehicle by which you deliver the song. You know, in a different way. And I go so far as to say the same with Blur. You know, Graham Coxon is an experimental guitarist more than he is a, you know, he is a sort of the great virtuoso kind of thing. But that kind of fits in with grunge, doesn't it? There weren't the great virtuosos in grunge. There were, you know, lots of really good guitar players and stuff, but you know, not in the same way as the sort of the Eddie Van Halen kind of virtuoso thing. Not quite the same thing at all. More integrated, I would say.
Oh, was it
Which, yeah, yeah.
an anti reaction to it, wasn't it? A little bit like the Sex Pistols, were an anti reaction to Pink Floyd. That famous interview when they're talking, the interviewer is saying to Johnny Rotten, what do you think about Pink Floyd? And he goes, "Fuck Pink Floyd, fuck." For half an hour he's going, and they're at their height then, aren't they?
Yeah. I think what's funny about that is that that is so much of a pose in many ways, and not really that true. I don't know if it's a great Pink Floyd, but I know that Johnny Rotten was a great, and I don't know if you've ever heard of a great Van de Graaff generator. Here's a name for the kids. Van de Graaff generator. Any ideas? Who heard of Van de Graaff generator?
Yeah.
They're quite a sort of more experimental kind of thing, but not I'd say cousins of Pink Floyd. In a funny kind of way. So Johnny Rotten with his I hate Pink Floyd T-shirt and all of that. He's like, yes, Johnny.
I think the thing with Johnny though is that if you're 16. That's cool because your older brother might be 18 and he might be listening to Dark Side of the Moon, and you've got Anarchy in the UK. So,
yeah. Personally, I had both. But,
me too.
Wrong. But
I remember writing a school essay about. I was in Form 2. Simon, so I don't know what Form 2. Form 2's. I was about 12 years old.
Form 2. What is that? Do you know? I can't. I have no idea about. People say to me, "What year is your?" Whatever my daughter's. And I don't. Because now it goes from like year 1 to year 9 or 10 or something. It's like, no, that's not how it works. You go to secondary school, and then that's the first year secondary, and then it's second year. That's what I understand, and I don't understand them. And I have no idea what year Saskia's in.
I think Form 2. Form 2. It's about 12.
Second year secondary school. Yes, I understand that completely.
So here in New Zealand we have primary, then we have 2 years of intermediate, and then you go to secondary school. And anyway, I remember I'd heard about the Sex Pistols again through a relative of mine. I thought the music was great, and I read in the Sunday papers there was an article about the Sex Pistols, about how they're bad and anarchists, and how they get a pig's nose. They cut a pig's nose off and they have it on the stage when they go and perform. And I'm thinking, this is great. So I go to school and I write this, what's inspired you or what's great, something. But so I'm writing about, the anarchy and Sex Pistols and the pig's nose.
Yeah.
And I handed it into the teacher and I got a D for it,
Oh dear.
But I knew exactly why I got a bad mark. It had nothing to do with the content, my grammar or my puncture. It had everything to do with me talking and being excited about the Sex Pistols.
The content, yeah. And that's yeah. I know somebody I know. In fact, because in Bristol, had a bit of a punk scene going and stuff. And Bristol's premier punk band were a band called the Cortinas. Look them up. Fascist Dictator. Look it up. It's fun. But the guitar player Nick Shepherd was an old friend of mine. He's an old friend of mine. He lives in Perth, right? And playing out still. But he took me. He and I went. I can't remember why we went, but we went to see the Clash.
Awesome.
In 1977 on their first kind of headline, their first tour with Richard Hell and the Voidoids.
Wow.
But the drummer in the Cortinas was a guy called Dan Swan, and in his O-level English exam, he wrote out the lyrics to White Riot.
Awesome. Awesome.
Which is just wrote the lyrics and then signed his name on the form and left. Which is good fun.
Yeah. That's
in the days when academia was, you could, it didn't quite have the import that it has now. you know, you can still take it all out with a pinch of salt. But yeah, that was a really nice thing to do. Yeah. So yeah, Nick, who then took me to see the Clash, and we went backstage as well and stuff. You know, it's a bit more relaxed, it's
Wow.
punking. It was a great gig, it's a fantastic gig. But he joined the Clash in their last incarnation. Yeah, when it was Joe Strummer after Mick Jones left, and it was just
Sure.
Joe Strummer. They had two other guitar players, and Nick was one of them. So he had a couple of years in the Clash, touring, and not the most auspicious end of the Clash, but nevertheless, been in
Oh,
the Clash.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love the Clash. I had a couple of mates who were Clash nuts, Simon, and I didn't mind them. I certainly, the music was exciting, but I didn't realize anything about the Clash because, again, we didn't have the internet back then. A lot of the information that they
indeed.
gave us was a little bit limited. It wasn't until later on that I found out that Joe Strummer was a folk singer. He was a
Well,
hippie.
he'd been in hippie back. And
Yeah.
his father was a diplomat as well. I think,
Yeah,
so
that's
he wasn't
right.
quite the working class hero that he was.
No,
Which is classic rock and roll. Who mythological past. Really,
that's right.
There's a surprise. Yes.
Yeah.
No one's ever done that before, have they?
Still pretty
Bob
cool though.
Dylan.
I remember seeing that London Calling,
London Calling,
video
yeah.
was just like, I watched that video with some friends of mine. Back in the day, guys watching this back in the day, Simon and I and other people around our age, we would record videos on our VHS, because we didn't have YouTube, and we would have a VHS of the video clips we liked, and we would play them over and over again.
Over and over again, yeah. Replay them on your video. Oh, look at that! Look at us, go us, yes, Mr. Modern.
But we would sit and watch that video, and it was cool.
Yeah, and those little, because as you say, in those days, I suppose you were just getting. I don't know when MTV really started. I thought MTV was a bit later than that, but
we never got it here until years later.
No, I didn't much anyway. But I do remember, interestingly that. Even then, late 70s, there was no information beyond, and I've talked about this, the music papers. The music papers, your weekly, the NME, the New Musical Express, coming out every week. That was your Bible. That was where you got your news from. It was where you got interviews, and it's where you discovered possibly bands to check out. And you got articles about people who found out what they looked like.
Yep.
Outside of the sort of the red tops, railing against punk kind of thing. It's the most disgraceful thing since the last disgraceful thing. But the Sun and the Mirror and the British newspapers, the British tabloids. What easier target than a youth movement?
Mm-hmm.
Which had safety pins and Mohicans and things, and and like all youth movement, rebellion, and they were very upset about it. But
I went to school with a guy that had the balls, Simon, and he pierced his ear with a safety pin.
Wow! See, you look back on that now, it doesn't feel that radical, does it? And then in those days,
1979, that was radical, man.
I think that's great. I think that when you look back and you think, really, massively upset was the school massively upset on a sort of affronted beyond effrontery that somebody could turn up with a safety pin in their ear.
And we were going, wow,
look
because
at him.
guys did not have their ears pierced, Simon.
No, no, they didn't know. And yes, that's interesting. I don't know whether. Sorry, my glasses annoy me. I can't remember. Whether, for instance, Keith Richards have an earring in the early 70s?
Yeah. Yeah,
He
yeah,
did he? Yeah, yeah.
yeah. He had a shark's tooth. Shark's tooth.
That's the early 70s, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, hang,
So there was a sort of
hanging off
there
it.
was a kind of rock and roll thing in there, but a bit. But I don't remember. As I said, I don't remember from the early 70s. I don't remember people, necessarily really having earrings or stuff like that. As I say, besides Keith and I, but you would catch Pink Floyd with an earring, would you? In Roger Waters, possibly later, but I'm sure he didn't have one in the early 70s. And I can't think of any band in the early 70s that had any kind of piercings really. So yeah, it's quite interesting that what is in effect quite a low level thing, can cause such a stir, isn't it? My first kind of memory of kind of that kind of act of brazen rebellion. Oh look, Mr. Hack's arrived.
Hey, Hack. Awesome review on that Marshall amp too, brother. I watched that before we went live. Thanks for that.
Oh, cool. Yeah. It's new Marshall. Yeah, it's Marshall DSL40 Mark II.
Yeah. Awesome review.
Has he got that? Have you got that PRS yet? Hack, has that PRS appeared in your life yet? That blue PRS he was going to get, the SE, that he was getting to, because you don't want to take your expensive guitars out to rowdy bars.
I couldn't think of anything worse, mate, than taking a Les Paul on a small pub stage this time of year with drunken revelers getting ready for their Christmas break or whatever. Yeah. And you've got it there on the back of a stand, and you go and get a Coke, and someone jumps up on the stage and
beffoes it over, and then your head starts going. PRS's long story with the short story. They sold it, bastards. They sold it
bastards.
On you. Yeah, look at that. Sold it from under your feet. Bad luck. That's a bit rotten, isn't it? Hell. Because I thought you had that lined up. They were going to do a setup and a restring on it, and then you were going to get it.
Yeah, that's a smart idea though, Hack, to get a Hack guitar for some of these tight gigs. It's a smart move. You don't want to take your Firebird or that black ES Electric Spanish that you got to a gig like that. Yeah.
Yes, it's yeah. It's funny that, isn't it? I don't really think about it. I mean, I don't have expensive guitar. Oh, I've got a telly that's the proper thing, but my 31-year-old Japanese Stratocaster, that's I don't know when a guitar becomes vintage, but a guitar from the late 80s, is that vintage? I'm not quite sure what the
well, if you replace that, Simon, you're looking at New Zealand dollars $2,500. So that's not cheap. If you bought a new Strat.
No, but this was when I bought it. It was I want to say £450. So it wasn't like very expensive. So then this is 30 years ago, so it's quite expensive then, I suppose. I don't know what £450 is for the 1980s worth now.
I think what you have to do though is you have to look at the benchmark for a Strat anyway. If that got damaged and you were going to get insurance for it, the minimum would be $2,500-3,000 New Zealand minimum, and then you could turn around and say, well, it's a vintage model, so it'll be worth $3,500-4,000.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, I suppose it would be £1,000. UK inflation calculator.
So what's a standard Strat worth in the UK in pounds?
An American, well, like the new American Ultra ones, they're about £1,500, £1,600.
$3,000 here, three and a half. Yeah.
Is that what it is? Is it $2 New Zealand to the pound, pretty much?
Yeah, basically. So Arvin's saying those Les Paul necks break easy.
Yeah, one stand fan and it's curtains for it. Yes,
Oh,
overnight. That's
oh.
why I. That's why I wouldn't. That's But it is interesting that we
You
all.
never hear of Strat's necks breaking, do you?
Bloody hell! Do you know what? Go on, just looking here. £450 in 1980.
Yeah.
That for is worth £1,900 now. So I spent
Wow.
the equivalent of nearly for getting on for £2,000. Good lord! So yeah, I mean, I suppose I bought it's 400 for 1980, but see if I start 1988. Calculate. No, what does it matter? Okay, Okay, yeah, £450 in 1988 is £1,147 in 2017. So be a bit more than that now,
Wow.
but yeah. So it's probably probably it's getting that not that far away from the Ultra. Probably £1,200, £1,300. It's quite a lot.
Wow.
Hack they cheated you. They set it aside for some guy sold it. It's I think
Was
that
that a
used to.
Korean? Was that the Korean PRS?
I think it was the SE. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Korean one. Yeah, but do you know Hack? Used to. I've heard Philip McKnight saying that he used to put aside stuff in his shop, and then he put aside particularly one guitar he put aside, and his wife sold it. From under his feet, probably deliberate. No, Indonesian PRS. Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah. They're good. They've got some good reviews too.
Well, it's
Yeah, they're a popular
PRS.
guitar here.
Their quality assurance is
Mm.
that's what So you're very unlikely to get a bad one because they all go through PRS quality assurance and they go to PRS and then they get shipped out after they've checked them and tested them, taken out all the rubbish and things that undoubtedly they get, which is the way to do it probably if you're going to make
I'm glad
success.
Hack's not buying the PRS Strat copy. I'm so happy, so proud of you, Hack. Proud of you, brother.
Yeah, for a minute.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that PRS that looks like a Strat.
What the Silver Sky?
Silver Sky, yeah.
The John Mayer one. Are you not? Shaking his head. I'd love to play. I'm sure. But it's a bit like anything these days. I bet you if you played it, that would be a great guitar.
Look,
because it's
there's no
quality
doubt.
wise, and it is a signature thing, and it has, and it has what John Mayer specs in it. But all the people I've seen, play it, nobody's saying this is a terrible guitar. You get a bit of fuss around it because it's John Mayer and stuff. But actually, people like Philip McKnight and stuff like that, who are Strat guys, he really likes it. Really likes his Silver Sky.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a traditionalist, and I certainly don't want to sound like a snob, but the PRSs. When I think of PRSs, I think of Carlos Santana with the PRS. When I think of Strats, I think of Clapton and Richie Blackmore and Buddy Holly. When I think of Les Pauls, Simon, I think of Jimmy Page and Dwayne Allman, and I think Hack and I had this conversation in a chat once. And again, this is no disrespect because I've got an Epiphone ES355 and I've got an Epiphone Casino. But, the Epiphone Les Pauls just didn't look quite right for me because of the
headstock issue. The headstock issue is just the issue with Epiphone, isn't it? But on the other hand, if you're doing what Hack's doing and you're going, I need a guitar that's really serviceable, plays really well, to take out to rowdy gigs, so that if somebody did biffo it over, it wouldn't be like the end of the world, my 31-year-old Strat gets hurled across the bar, that would upset me no end. But I think that that is, that you'd go for that every time, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Because
$500
you find the
gets
right
you a
one.
good second-hand
Yeah.
Epiphone Les Paul, and they look okay. And yeah, you could take it out and gig with it. I wouldn't take my Les Paul. I wouldn't. I'll never gig with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I'd gig with all my guitars, all 4 of them. I've gigged them all. I've gigged the Telly, I've gigged them, because I think I might be a bit judicious about where I took it, if you see what I mean.
I should qualify my statement. Yes, depending on where the gig was. Yeah. Okay, a little bit like you. I wouldn't take it to a birthday backyard party.
No, I take my Chapman to that, because
yes,
it's a great. If nothing else, if you hit somebody with it, they stay hit.
Good.
Solid lump of mahogany.
Good.
6 runs out of the ground, but which is part of the reason for having it. Really, if you have a £200 guitar,
and
that's
what happens when someone's
guitar.
telling you that Jimi Hendrix isn't a good guitarist. That's when you hit them over the head with your Chapman.
It's when they've come up for the umpteenth time and say, "Can you play Britney Spears, Hit Me Baby One More Time?" And then you have to hit them one more time. They are. I can't play it, but I can do it. Yes. It's like a bit like, Keith Richards, that famous clip of Keith hitting somebody over the head with his Telecaster.
Yeah, on the 81 tour, it's fantastic. They jump up on stage and he hits them twice. It's fantastic with his black Telly. It's
biffos
awesome.
them off. Yeah, it's like a cricket stroke, isn't it? Takes it off, straight back on. Don't miss a beat. Gotta love Keith, haven't you? So, but as I said, I would take. Like last night, I'd feel comfortable about taking any kind of guitar to, sort of last night. But when I played in my previous, party band, there were, quite a lot. There'd be, gigs could get quite rowdy and stuff. And as people would invade the stage and things, and then you'd be holding on to your guitars, and going, but so trying to protect your gear and stuff like that,
I've got a Strat here that it's buried. I'll pull it out next show, and it was about 6 months old, and it's got a couple of dings on it because of that exact, and that was the only guitar I had, Simon. So I went everywhere, So you're leaning it up. Yeah. You're leaning it again. That's one of the just don't lean your guitar on. Lay it down, or get a stand. Don't lean it up against anything.
That's completely it, isn't it? That is actually rule 1. When you buy your first guitar, get a stand. Spend the extra 20 quid and get a stand, because that's actually what, as you say, save you a whole load of aggravation. But I think that it's that I was watching a Joe Bonamassa thing the other day, to the Extreme Show. And when you start going, I've got a couple of 59s I've taken out. I've got a 61. I've got a 58 Strat. I've got a 52 Telly. I've got a 61 ES335. You go, how much is that? And you're going, oh God, that's like £2.5 million worth of guitars. You start looking at it like that. I've got half a dozen of my vintage guitars out.
Yeah.
And you're talking about them being, I don't know, £2 million or whatever it is. that and obviously he's playing on a stage, so the chance of people knocking him over a bit less. But but even so, there's a bit like, ooh, that's a lot of things to be taken on tour, And it's let's have a look. At the end of the night, let's put Les Paul back in the case first. Yes, absolutely. Put it in the case. Yeah. That's what first thing I put away as well. Put my guitars away, put them in their cases, and then I pack down all my stuff. I think it's. Arvin said, Keith said it was still in tune after he hit somebody with it. That's because he hit him with the body end, Arvin. You see, you can protect the tuning by hitting somebody with the body end. Whereas poking with them with a neck is not a good idea. That gets you out of tune quick.
Yeah. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, Simon, a friend of mine, he saved up a bit of money and he waited for his Christmas bonus and he went and bought a guitar. And it was Christmas Eve, and he went to the local shop and he picked up. Incidentally, it was a Epiphone.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Sheraton copy. And he took the guitar home. Anyway, he got on the booze. I got a phone call from him the next morning saying, "Oh man, have you got a guitar lead?" And I said, "Yeah. I've got lots of them. Why?" And he said, "I've bought a guitar bunt." And he had the amp, but no lead.
No lead. Nothing. So how does it connect? Yes. How do you get one to the other?
So we laughed about that for about 10 or 15 minutes, and it's just again, it sort of just puts into perspective. If you're a sales guy and someone buys a guitar, have you got some picks? Oh, have you got a guitar strap? Oh, have you got a guitar lead? Oh, do you want to spare a set of strings? Yeah.
Yeah. Do I need all of that? Well, it would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Mr. Salesman says, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. That was a laugh. So yeah, he because the shops are closed. What for about? For a day and a half or something.
Oh no, a day and a half. Yeah,
but you know what it's like
for a week.
But you know what it's like when you've got a new guitar and you want to. Well, you haven't had a guitar for years and you've just bought it. You've borrowed an amp and you want to play it.
Yeah. See, in my day, we had all. I must see if my. Yeah, well, I started off. I think like a lot of people, I started off. I don't know where it was. I think my dad had an old kind of self-built, and I'm sure it had a kind of just a wooden frame thing. But basically, it was a radio. You could plug in. It's like a little radio, with a little valve stuff, and it would make a noise. And I'm going to look at my dad's studio and see if it's still there, lurking in a corner somewhere. I might rescue it if it has. But yes, there's still quite a lot of stuff at my dad's studio, even though he died 6 years ago. Isn't it?
Go and see if it's still there.
Yeah. Well, it's quite a lot of mad stuff there. We sold quite a lot of it, but yeah, that's always consider your tuning when you club somebody with your guitar. So Arvin, it's always in the forefront of my thinking when I'm about to hit a member of the audience with my guitar. Make sure you hit them with the blunt end. Preserve your tuning. This is lovely idea, isn't it? Yeah. Better not make it go out of tune. Better hit him with the big end.
So Arvin hasn't committed to being on the show next week. Are we going to get a commitment from him in the chat?
Yeah, Arvin, come on. You've got to come on. I'm sure he's got the kit to do it. So,
I'm sure he has. I've seen his channel. He's got.
He does stuff, so he's fine. Yeah.
He does stuff.
He does stuff. Yes,
that'll be good if you came on and you had a chat with us and talked about a bit of your gear and what you've done. Yeah, it'll be good.
So, Hack, have you? Are you still going to get a PRS? I'm interested in seeing. You're going to get another one. If you're still on the lookout for a cheaper guitar. As a man who buys cheaper guitars, I'm keen. Because, as you know, I've kind of, bought my cheap Chapman and kind of upgraded it and stuff. And actually really pleased with that I really enjoyed doing that I didn't do it myself, which is cheating. But, that kind of buying a cheap guitar and just going, upgrade a few things on it just for a bit of fun, to see what you can make a guitar do. and actually can make it do quite a lot, because obviously pickups are if you change the pickups on the guitar, that's a lot of the sound.
I upgraded an Axis Uniball Music
AJH,
Man about
yeah.
5 months ago. So that's the made in Indonesia one. So that's at work. I put a JB pickup on the bottom.
Yeah.
And I replaced the crappy Sterling Music Man Floyd Rose with a German one that I picked up. You got a bit of a deal on it, and it plays pretty good. Sounds good. But yeah, I'm a little bit like you, Simon. I think you can make a couple of upgrades on that Epiphone that I picked up. I replaced that with some Tone Rider pickups, and it just gave it a bit more bite. And that's it.
Yeah. I did sort of, with my Chapman, because it was very much set up as a metal guitar, quite high output
Sure.
stuff, I that's not me by a distance, but so I just took it out and made it much more Strat-like, and those Suhr pickups are great, really nice, especially turn them up a bit. It's a beautiful, so and the Thornbucker is a great humbucker pickup that has a sound that I really like. That really in a mix it cuts, but it also got that kind of as I say, it's not a high output pickup, so you don't get I prefer to be able to add a load of things, not have a bass line that's way up kind of thing. But yeah, that Chapman, I play my Chapman probably more than any of my other guitars. It's always out, and I'm always playing it. Yeah. Well, interesting. It seems to have. It has a kind of, I think, like a Ibanez type neck on it, which makes it's quite flat and quite
thin and flat,
not too wide.
Flat.
Yeah, it's not too thin, not too flat. But apparently, what I didn't realise that. Do you know where Ibanez got the idea for their thin, flat necks from?
I have no idea.
Well, apparently, they got the idea from the 1960 Les Paul. The 59s have great big necks, and the 60s have much smaller necks. Well, apparently that Ibanez neck is based on those thinner 60s Gibson Les Paul necks. Apparently,
wow.
Which is like, that's why, nothing new, But so, and I think that the Chapman is a bit, has a bit of an Ibanez neck about it, which makes it, I found it really comfortable to play. Really well organized, as you'd expect if you've got a guitar player designing a guitar. The thing you'd expect is it plays okay. The neck feels good, and the, it's not too wide, it's not too baseball batty.
That's one of the great things about being a guitar player and having different guitars, and you can find a guitar that suits you. Like Chapman, for example, goes to great lengths saying that he doesn't like the full-bodied ES guitars, and sometimes the captain will give him one when they do some of that when they play jokes on each other, and but he doesn't like, he's a metaler, so he likes something with a smaller body. But when I jump on my Epiphones, I love it, Simon. I love having my arm, and it's so different from your Strat. Your body is doing something completely different. I love that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's and are you one of those people who kind of gets, I don't care about this at all. I don't care about neck size, or I don't care about, a guitar is a guitar. Turn it up, put it on, play it, And if it's got, all my guitars got different necks on them and stuff like that. Yeah. I don't care at all about. Do you care about that? I know some people, lots, I can't play that because of the neck, blah, 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 I don't feel that at all, Yeah.
Well, my Les Paul, which has got the 50s neck, is just it's like a cricket bat. or a baseball bat for our North American fans.
Yeah.
And then I go and play my Clapton Strat, which has got that soft V. It's just they're completely different, and I love that, Simon. I love having something that's just fits in my hand lovely, and then something that I've got to actually put my
Put your hand round.
hand around and yeah, I love it. Is one better than? Basically, in a nutshell, to answer your question, no, I'm not one of these guys that says I'm not going to play that because I hate it. I'm going to go from my Strat to that guitar because I just want to play something different.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, with a different sound and a different feel and a different vibe.
Love it.
Yeah. I was just saying, I don't think I've ever cared about that, to be honest. And it's something of a surprise to me that quite a lot of people go, oh, I can't play that guitar. It's too big, too whatever. It's like, well, that's just what it is. Just play. Just pick it up, and you've got to adjust your mind to this is as you say, quite a thick, round neck. My gold top Chapman has got that much more kind of Les Paul-y, quite a fat neck. I don't have a problem playing it, just pick it up, and that's because that's what it is. It's like getting into different cars. Just drive them, get in, drive it, whatever.
Simon, I'd never buy an Explorer. I'll never buy a Flying V type of guitar, but I've played them, in shops. I could see myself buying a Firebird. I know what I like and what I don't like. If that makes sense, but
yeah. I think that's different to what you like, but you're right. I've never played. I don't remember ever playing a Firebird or, but I'm sure I would get used to it in 10 seconds, and be able to function with it, or a Flying V. I think I played a Flying V in the Dim and Distant, but I wouldn't have. I don't have an issue with it really. Certainly playing. Playing standing up is is fine. Strap it on, off you go, kind of thing. And and I don't mind. I'm not bothered about picks particularly. I use all different kind of thickness of picks.
Me too.
Just in the guitar.
I've got that pick here.
Yeah.
I've got that pick. I've got, and I play them all. Simon, got a jazz pick. Another. I'm a little bit like you. I've got picks all over the place, and I pick them up, and I play them because of that same situation that we're just talking about. If I came to your place and you said, here's a guitar, here's a pick, there's an amp, let's jam, I'm going to say, all right, buddy, let's go. What are we going to play? I'm not going to say, oh, Simon, have you got a 60? Have you got a 73?
0.61 mil, yes.
I can't play, Simon, because you haven't got a 0.73. You've only got a 1 mil pick.
Rubbish at that. Yeah. Well, look, here's my bag of picks, and it's got all manner of different ones in it and stuff like that. Not very flexible, great thick ones, and all sorts of stuff. And do you know what? It's all fine. I just pick one out and play it.
Someone's going to turn around and say, "Well, if you can't play with that 1 mil pick, I don't think you're really a player, Andrew."
But yeah.
I'd say that if you said no, mate, sorry, you haven't got the right pick, and and that EVH Wolfgang that you've got there, no, I can't play that, man.
Can't play that, I consider that to be a failing on my part if I couldn't play something. If I couldn't play guitar, I would not consider it to be the guitar's fault. I would consider it to be my fault. Bad workman always blames his tools. It's kind of. I feel that's exactly the attitude. For it really. That
the thing I might complain about. I might complain to myself again. I've got some guitars that have a really, really low action. I've got 3 Strats. One's got a real low action. One's got a medium action, and the other's high action. So, and again, Simon, going from the 3 guitars, it's remarkable, but but again,
Does it bother
would,
you? Does it bother you?
no.
No, it doesn't. No. When you've learnt on it, well, I don't know what you do, but my first guitar was the guitar I learnt on when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Was a really old crappy Spanish guitar. And the action was about like that. You get out to about the A fret. And the action's like about 3/4 of an inch off the neck. It's like once you played that, anything else, it doesn't matter what anything else is. It's a piece of cake compared to that. It's no, I agree with you. I've got my guitars have sort of medium action. So Fender, the Strat's got a low action to it.
Yep.
Fine, pick them up, just play, get on with it, play. You soon forget what the last one felt like, and you're just away with what you've got.
What I've found out recently, actually, is I don't like my action too low much these days.
You like to be able to get your finger underneath the string a bit, and yeah. I think that's true. Yeah.
You've hit the nail on the head. I like to be able to do that comfortably, and on my Blackie Strat, which has got the action real, I need to adjust that because it is too low, because I can't I can't bend it up, you can't get a grip on there.
Can't get your grip. That's interesting. It's too low. I'm sure I don't hear that very often. It's too low for me. I like a, I agree with you. I like a slightly, higher action. My Fender's quite low, but again, you can still get your hands underneath them.
Thank you.
My interesting thing about my Fender is that obviously I've had it for 31 years, and it's got vintage frets on it, and it's got 31 years of vintage fret, and yet some of them are quite low, and I was thinking, do I have to get this refretted? And I can't. I don't really know, but there's a part of things maybe because I've obviously played it a lot, that and they're not stainless steel or anything like that. Maybe I have to get it. Maybe I have to get it refretted. That would be bad. I don't know.
I've got a 20-year-old Strat, and it doesn't need any refrets. Mind you, I haven't thrashed that, by any stretch of the imagination. But look, I don't know anything about refretting. I know that guys have had guitars refretted, and it's like a new guitar. It's
yeah.
Some guys haven't liked it.
Yeah, there's a really good video from the guys from That Pedal Show, Mick Taylor, having his Strat refretted. Him and Dan, they both got their guitars refretted, by a local bloke called Johnny Kincaid, who's a very well known Bristolian guitar builder. And so you can see that you might need it. You've been called.
Yeah.
Where's my tea? But so I don't know. That's something to think about as a thing. I'm certainly not anywhere near actually doing it. You'll be pleased to know. But I do. It's those kind of things. How do you know? How do you know when it needs a refret? I don't know how it.
One of my Strats, it's flatter on the top than on the bottom, clearly, but it still sounds okay.
Yeah. Oh yes, I think that's probably it. I can still play my Strat fine. I don't think about it unless. That's the trouble with watching these things, isn't it? It puts things in your mind that maybe you shouldn't. I don't think 20 years ago I'd ever heard of a refret. What is that? What is that anyway? So because I never heard of it, I never thought of it, and only recently people talk about refrets. And I think possibly, it's just one of those things. Yes, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, and just because you've heard the term doesn't mean your guitar actually needs it in any way, shape, or form. Any description, and it doesn't mean that that you should be going out and get somebody to hit it with a hammer, because you think possibly it might do. I think if you, that, and the trouble is, when I bought that guitar, I bought it as a workhorse guitar,
Sure.
and now, but the trouble is, now it's 31 years old. You go, do I want to start messing about with it? Actually, I've already messed about with it. I've got Spurswell locking tuners on it, which I put on when I got it, pretty much. so I have messed about with it already. So it's not original. It's got but you sit there and you go, oh, I sit there and I go, oh, I mean, then all of a sudden it's 31 years old and you're thinking to yourself, is that a vintage guitar? No, because I have a feeling it might be. Not that I'm trying to put anything on it, in terms of that's just its age, not what it is. And I'm not trying to say it's not it's not like a sort of 59 Gibson Les Paul kind of vintage. It's a it's just an old guitar. But I think
Did you see that? Did you see that guitar that Captain Smith gave Dave Nesdall?
Yeah,
the Ernie Ball Music Man.
Yeah. That's not like the one you've got? They look quite similar.
No, I've got an Axis, which is the model that Music Man did after Eddie left. But
they changed its name but kept everything else about it. Yeah, it wasn't. Yes, it wasn't. You couldn't call it an EVH because he'd gone.
Yeah. But that one that Dave Nesdall's got, that Simon gave him, that's beautiful.
That's beautiful. Yeah. It's got a beautiful top. Yeah. I've never played an EVH. I don't know what they're like at all.
It's a funny guitar, Simon, because the scale. You get the impression it's a shorter guitar, but the scale is exactly the same. It's just the way that it's built. So instead of playing sort of up here a bit, you're playing back here with it.
Yeah.
It's different.
And the body is quite small. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that right? I mean, I'm not imagining that. I don't know. Is that odd when the body's quite small? I'm used to sort of, Strat, which has a reasonable sized body and stuff.
It's different.
Or do you just get used to it?
Yeah, it's different. It's certainly different, but that just feeds into everything that we were just saying previously. Going from a Les Paul or going from your Strat to this guitar, it's just it's different. It's like great. Yeah.
Yeah. So I go back to our conversation. It's what's Arvin saying? Yeah, always consider your tuning when you. Oh no, I hadn't heard of almost any of the Guitar Mater stuff till I discovered YouTube channels 3 years. and then do you then worry that you haven't done any of these things for 30 years, but yet your guitar's fine?
One thing that amazes me, Simon, is you watch these guys and they do fret jobs, where they're sanding down, filing down the fret, and I'm going,
ooh, what's that? Yes, I'll be taking a file to my guitar. I don't think so. Wow. I do find that, so I'm with you, Arvin. It's like 3 years ago, knew anything about these things. I took my guitar for a setup, probably once a year, if I can be asked to do it. Other than that, I just change the strings and get on with it. Change the strings, change this, change that. It's like, and all of a sudden you're in this massive world of change, isn't it? That I never knew existed.
Fiddle with the pickup heights, maybe. That's about it.
And it's it's like just for 30 years I've played that guitar, and had just as I say, had a setup done on it every year, kind of thing, just to kind of check it out, make it right. Nobody's ever come back and gone, you need to do this. It just it comes back with a new set of strings and plays good, and you go, that's it, that's fine. Cost not very much money. It didn't used to cost very much money, and then you do that and you go, yeah, that's cool, and you just carry on playing it. You go out and play, and it sounds fine, and you go, well, that'll work then. And yes, now in the world of fret jobs, fret sprout, foreign things to me. I have no idea what frets. I mean, I don't think I've ever had a guitar that's had fret sprout.
When he does a bit of work on mine, I said to him, "Don't clean the neck. Leave the neck
alone.
don't clean it."
Really? Why not? What you mean, the fretboard or the back of it?
The fretboard. Yeah.
You're not like,
Just
oh, I don't mind. I clean mine from time to time. Give it a
I,
scrub.
I'm heavily influenced by Mike Campbell. Mike Campbell's. I remember reading that years ago where Mike Campbell said, "No,
Don't clean the neck.
don't clean the neck."
See?
And I thought, yeah, okay, all right. If it's good enough for Mike Campbell, it's good enough for Andrew
Yeah.
Walton.
I don't think I've ever read that, so that serves me right, doesn't it? See, so, I mean, you see, but that's it. I just I clean the neck every now and then, and I get the crap off it, and yeah, does don't know, just what you do, give it a shine sometimes, kind of polish out, make sure there's not too much rubbish on it and things, kind of, but really without thinking about it, ignorance. Ignorance is bliss. The old saying, ignorance is bliss. Well, ignorance was bliss for me.
I do sand the back of all my guitars. I get some 600 grit sandpaper,
Yeah,
and I sand
rough
the
it
back.
up a bit. Yeah.
Oh
So no,
well,
never done that.
doesn't
Wouldn't
rough
occur to
it.
me.
It actually it takes a bit of that lacquer off. It actually makes it a little bit faster. But yeah. I was influenced by a YouTube channel about 7 years ago, and did it on one of my cheaper guitars, and thought, oh, okay, I like that. It didn't make it sticky.
That's interesting. Yeah. No, that's interesting. Because I mean, I've never inevitably, I've never even heard of that until recently. So I would never I would never take sandpaper to my Strat. Not a hope. As you say, even though it wasn't comparatively not very expensive, I still wouldn't have taken sandpaper to me. No, I'm not doing that. Good Lord. You just, as I say, for 30 years, I've just had that guitar, and it plays. So I play, and I get set up, and I change the strings every now and then. And other than that, leave the bloody thing alone,
Simon, but
Do
I
you need to
haven't
go?
taken. Yeah, I need to go, but I haven't taken the sandpaper to my Les Paul. All right, that's one guitar where I haven't sandpapered.
Yes, I wouldn't take the sandpaper to any of my guitars, but least of all, I wouldn't take it for my telly for sure. That would be very. I wouldn't take it to my Gold Top Chapman either. I definitely,
Mate,
although
go.
that's got a thing. You've got to go feed your family, chomping at the bit.
I'll see you this time next week around the same time.
Yeah.
Look forward.
Yeah. We'll converse in a week.
And hopefully we'll have a couple of guests.
And maybe Mr. Gaunt will come on. You can harass him on Facebook and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, thanks to Arvin for dropping by and Guitar Hack. It's cool to see you guys. Hope you have a good sleep. You guys are going to you guys are going to bed. Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm waking up. Was it 6:30?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
See you next week. Take care. All.